All right, I think that's working now. So yeah, thanks again everyone for joining us tonight. We have a couple of talks and a few guests. This is definitely the longest title I've had in my meetup, and it was quite difficult to beat the limit that meetup imposed on me. So yeah, that was good fun. We the usual stuff, our Twitter, and recently our YouTube as well. We've started the channel. I think we have the past couple of talks there in case you are curious on what we've covered in the past, and a few contact details for Samuel and the usual Imran and Billy as well. I think all our Twitters. And moving on with the agenda. So as per usual, I'm gonna be sharing a few stories that have happened in the past couple of months. I think last meetup we had was mid-September, and then Samuel will be doing the first talk, which is Fast and Furious, going headless with Nuxt.js, and then we are gonna have about a 5 minutes break for the speakers to swap and make sure that everything works fine. And then we have Mikey Smith and Michael Henley doing the Vuejs, our remedy for keeping everyone happy. And then finally, a wrap up with what will be coming next and when you can expect the next meetup. So news, this is probably not news anymore. I think this has been announced probably like a week after our last meetup. But yeah, Vue 3.0 has been released. So it's been almost 2 months now since it's been live. And I think all the other libraries like the router, Vuex, and everything else, it's been coming along very well. And the other frameworks are following up, such as Nuxt, which we'll be talking today. And yeah, basically everything in the ecosystem will soon be ported to support the latest features that Vue 3 brings. There was also the Vuejs Global, which is the conference from Amsterdam, which was mid-September. The talks have been posted on that YouTube channel. I still haven't got to watch any of them, but yeah, there is plenty. I think it was a couple of days conference, so lots. The release of Vue 3 was actually as part of that conference, so I think the Evans U talk is basically covering that. Last week there was the VueConf Toronto, which this was free. I've attended both days. Lots of interesting talks, which have also been published on YouTube. So in case you've missed it out, yeah, make sure to give that a go. You will also find Samuel's talk there. He talked, I think he was on the second day. So yeah, his talk, which he will present today, will also be in that list on the VueConf YouTube channel. If you are interested, Vue Mastery will be running a Black Friday deal. So I think that's the biggest discount I've seen them doing since I've started following them maybe a couple of years ago. And that's 50% off for a year. And you will also be locking that price going forwards after that in case you want to, yeah, basically keep the subscription up. And since we are talking about Nuxt, this mastering Nuxt has been released last week, which is the Vue School, which is similar to Vue Mastery. It's another like tutorial school. It's in collaboration with them. And I think 25% of all proceeds are going to the Nuxt team. And this mastering Nuxt course, it's actually slightly different than the way Vue Mastery and Vue School works. You basically pay once and that's it. You have the course rather than being a subscription-based sort of, yeah, tutorials and all that. So I don't think it's complete. They meant to keep on add stuff in this course, but it's meant to be very comprehensive. So you'll be having all sorts of things from like, I think the whole course is gonna be building a clone of Airbnb. So you'll be having all sorts of things from authentication to map API to security, SEO, API. So basically everything that you will be actually doing in case you will be working with this framework in your day-to-day job. So yeah, it's meant to really expose the use cases that you'll be doing as part of your projects. So feel free to have a look in there as well. And I think that's everything on my side that I had to share. And I can now pass to Samuel, who is head of developer relationship at Storyblok. And he's gonna be taking us through the his talk, Going Headless with Nuxt.js.
Yeah, hi. Thank you one more time to be here. And I should probably share my screen as first. So let's share the screen and hopefully everything's working. And yeah, not this one, this one. Do you see my screen? Good. Just want to confirm that.
Not yet. I wonder whether I need to pause mine. Let me.
Because I'm sharing.
I can see it, but in the view options in Zoom, you need to select which one you want to see as a user.
Oh. That may make things more difficult, right?
Or just stop sharing your screen, Emanuel.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think it works now. I think it will work for everyone.
So hopefully everybody see my screen. At least one more person could confirm that.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I can see it.
Good.
Great, thank you. So one more time, thank you to be here. My name is Samuel Snopko, which is here down. You can follow me also with my name, Samuel Snopko. And I'm going to talk fast and furious. Usually this talk take me like 35 minutes, sometimes like a little bit less if I speak too fast. And we are going headless with Nuxt.js. Basically, we will be creating a very simple website where we'll also create articles, and we will be rendering the homepage with few featured articles that we will be picking by hand, basically, in the headless system called Storyblok. As a disclaimer, I am working for Storyblok right now, but that wasn't all the time. If not everybody was here as we were speaking before the slide. So very quickly about me. One more time, my name is Samuel Snopko, and I'm currently the head of developer relations at Storyblok, but I was like using Storyblok like years, or at least 1.5 years before I joined the company. I really like the technology, and especially with the Nuxt.js together. And that was the reason why I basically start to talking about the Storyblok and the Nuxt.js combination. And that brings me to the point that I was working as a front-end developer, as any of you, and especially I was like saying that I'm from the night, as I'm a big Star Wars fan, and also doing something like a bridge between the designers and the hardcore backend developers, because I like that work, basically. So yeah, okay. What is also something is that this talk will be about live coding, and I don't prefer to do a lot of slides. I usually like to show people how to like teach them something, and the best way to teach them, to show them how to do it, than to people that they shouldn't have a fear about that. If you want to follow me, or like if you miss something and you want to check what did I exactly did, then there is a GitHub repository, storyblok/talk by lazingly fast Nuxt.js, which basically covers the starting point, also ending point of this talk. So the first question is like if, and hopefully there are some also beginners about Nuxt.js, is how you should start with Nuxt.js. And in my opinion, after a lot of trying and creating own templates and trying anything possible out there, I just landed at Create Nuxt app, which is basically something from the Nuxt.js team. and they dev cycle. So they are developing so fastly and new features in the Nuxt.js that it makes no sense to create your own repos or anything, because at the end you will end here anyway. So just go for yarn create Nuxt app and then name your project as I did here. And then it starts like creating your projects. There is very nice step-by-step projects, which is like in this case, as you can see, is like give a name. I will just stay by using the last showcase, and I'm using still JavaScript and Yarn. Then you can choose all these frameworks, like front-end UI frameworks that will be set up for you from scratch, and there are usually some kind of modules for the Nuxt.js already. But I'm going for Tailwind CSS as basically is I like it right now. Even I hated it at the beginning, but it's really good. Then you can set up the basic Nuxt.js modules, which are Axios, Progressive, PVA, or Content. If you would go for experimenting, go for Content, but right now you don't need to set up anything for this talk. Linting tools will be also set up for you. I'm not going to do that for the purpose of the demo talk, because that will be just slowing me down. I don't do any testing today, and we will go for universal application source, basically server-side rendering, or you could go also even server-side generating, or static side, And the target will be, in my case, server. So it will be no static right now, but it will be like mostly the same thing for you. And I'm using VS Code, so that's why I'm taking JS config, and my GitHub name is not here, but that doesn't matter right now. So, and after this, your project will be set up, and you will end in the project like this. So you will see basically all the folders you need to create with the Nuxt.js. So you will have also folders like pages, which take care for the routing. And first thing, after you jump here, you should always start yarn dev and check if everything is working, and the current version is really up to date and it's working. So yeah, I already did that, started, and on my local host, I should have my system running and up and running. So let's go for localhost. And as you can see here, I have a welcome screen from the Nuxt.js, and even have a links for GitHub and documentation. So everything is running. So we are basically set up for deployment if you would like to deploy this stuff. But what next? The next step would be we have to create and take care, manage our content server. And this is where the headless CMS coming to the point. As I already said, I'm going to choose Storyblok. Come on. I can click like this. And Storyblok, you can just log in. Of course, create a registration, and after login, you will end in the dashboard screen where you see all your projects. Also, as we call them, these are the spaces. And I will check that I will not miss anything in my timeline. So, and here on the left side, you see our spaces, where you manage your content, and you can create, of course, a new space. So let's create a new space. So the create new space is very easy. You can create it from scratch, or you can duplicate space, or even you can go for playing demo. So if you really want to just play with Storyblok, just go for a demo. But right now, I'm going to create everything from scratch. First, of course, I have prepared a name for this talk, because I will be doing this and always making so many typos. So after I created my space, which was super fast, as you can see, you will land into the content section, and here is a little guide. But today I'm your guide, so I'm closing that, and you can see your first content. Usually you can remove this or reuse it or whatever you want to do with that. This is default content that there is something inside. So, and if I open this home, which represents usually my index page, then I can manage my content already. Even if I didn't set up anything, I can start and manage my content. In the first here screen is basically the visual editor that is not set up or not configured right now, and that's why we don't see it. And we see only the links for tutorials. We will fix this soon, but on the right side or right hand side, we see our content and how to manage it. And we can even focus only on the content by minimizing the visual editor. And now let's focus only on the content. So the content right now, we have a teaser where we say hello world. Let's change it to hello Manchester. Oh, I will not write it correctly. So sorry for that. Vue.js. And then I have a grid. I can already like edit my content. I can reorder it. I could even create a new block, which I will get later. But I can create only right now only the components I defined, which are custom defined, and we can create my own. I can even save it. I can go for publish, and if I would have a setup like a webhook, then it will like deploy it like my Nuxt.js application, and the website will be deployed, or application, or whatever. And I can also preview my content, how it look like in API, if it would be like JSON API, so REST API, or I could like see also the same thing in the GraphQL API, basically. So this is very nice. I can play a little bit with my content. I can create a new stuff, but I cannot like see the preview of it. So what next? The next thing, next step is that we should use this token. And this token is there to connect my Nuxt.js with Storyblok. And the question how to connect those two technologies is very easy, because Nuxt.js has this, also the Vuejs have the possibility to create new plugins, new modules, and we have also the module for the connection between the Storyblok and the Nuxt.js. So let's jump to Nuxt.js and connect them together. So first of all, I will stop my localhost server and I will install the package from the npm module, which is called Storyblok Nuxt. It's very easy and straightforward. So after installation, all you have to do is basically jump to config of the Nuxt.js, which is where you set up usually all your modules, and scroll down. As you can see, this is the whole config right now with some setup predefined according to what we set up in the creation. And I have here already prepared and commented my Nuxt.js module, Storyblok Nuxt module. Here, I have to only set up the access token, but you could set up even more things if you need to, like more options. But right now, to make it very simple, I just need to set up the access token and nothing more. And I would usually, in the production project, I would do it using the .NET environment file, like here, where you would have like Storyblok space token, let's say, and then there's like token, which will never be like committed and pushed to Git. But right now, I would just replace this with the token I need. And I'm going to use here from Storyblok, I'm going to use this token, which is the draft token, and I will have access for a draft content, not basically published content, but draft. If I would like to have also the access to the published content, or even a different stuff, then I can go always to the settings, API keys, and create also like public, which will be like production token, and then I will be using that public production token on my deployment, or where is the production basically. So, but now let's use the preview or the draft, like copy paste it here, save it, and let's start basically my local host. So it should take a little bit time. It will be like compile, build the whole stuff. We could see it also like here, if I reload, probably, if everything is running okay. Sometimes it takes a little bit more time as the project and currently a lot of connection is on. So you could see a little bit building, and now it's up and running. And we don't see any errors, so probably everything's running good. So let's check if we change something here in content on the home page. So we still don't see the preview. So this is the next step we should fix. So how to fix this and make basically one of the key features of the Storyblok working is just like, if you see here in this fake URL, there is saying like HTTP your server address /home. So your server address should be your like preview address. Like if it's like on the Vercel or Netlify, it could be that one. Or like now I have a localhost, and I could use a localhost. So let's use the localhost address and go back to the settings. And here in general, I can like replace the location of the default environment, or I could like add a multiple of them. So if I have like a preview, which will be like, let's say on the Vercel, and then I would also the production, which will be also a different URL for my production server production. So then, okay, all I need to do is save it. And if I go back to content and open the story of home, then I see a difference right now. And really sorry for this. I have to fix that. This is not a part of the Storyblok. This is part of my internet provider. So I see an error, which is kind of usually bad, but right now I would say like this is okay because we are getting error from the Nuxt.js. And why we are getting the error from Nuxt.js is that if you know something with Nuxt.js, we ask for localhost/home. So we are asking for a Slack home or for a page called home. And if what does this exactly mean is that here in the Storyblok project, in the Nuxt.js project, I should have a home.vue file in the pages folder, or I would have some mapping or routing that if I'm asking for the home, then what page I should show. But right now I have only index.vue. So I could do a fix like in the code, or I could be like also use my fix we did in the visual preview here in the Storyblok. So if I go to config, I can override real path to just a slash because my index space is represented by basically by empty slack or the slash. So let's save it. And after the save, I see the preview and I see right now what I see on the local host. So I will close that and I can use it. And if I would like to go for the different like location which I set up before, then I could here go for preview or production, and that would be of course different URLs, which I'm not going to set up right now. Okay, but still here I just set up some content. We just said like teaser and grid consists of the different 3 features, and I didn't see that here. And the reason why I don't see that here is that I didn't connect it still the Storyblok directly. I didn't ask for the data from Nuxt.js, and I have to also create the components there because in a Storyblok is built on the basically on the atomic design approach in mind. So everything in Storyblok is content, and as I love it, also to name it is the content component based content basically. So if I go back and go to component section, you can see all the custom components we just created. And these are the default created. So we have a feature, grid, page, and teaser. And that's exactly what you could see here. So this is the home, which is content type page. And the content type page has a body, and there we can use our blocks or like nested components. So if I go back to the components, then you can see exactly here, the feature, grid, page, and teaser. And we have 2 types of the components. One is the content type, and one is nestable. The content types are used to create the stories. That could be like page, which is the most default name for a page. But this could be also like the landing page. This could be also the outer page. This could be even the items. So if you have like eShop, this could be like your item that you are selling, and even it can be also the stuff that is not represented by the website. It's just holding the information like the outer that can be used on different places, but you are not going to exactly render a page for the outer. Then we have also an nestable component, which we call the blocks internally. And that's why the name of the Storyblok. So we have a content types from which we are creating stories. And then we have a nestable components which are created, we are using to create a blocks of those stories. And here in this case, we have 3 of them. So we have a feature, grid, and teaser. So feature right now consists only from 1 field called name, and this is type text. And we could set up like different stuff, but we don't need it right now. Just make it simple. Then we have a teaser, which is very simple and almost the same style, just the field is renamed to headline instead of the name. So it's okay. But as I said, we can like have a nestable components, and these nestable components can be used in any other component, even in story, also in the other nestable components. And in this way, you can create a combination on multiple like nesting, layouts, or whatever you want to create. So, and how to do that is exactly how it is the grid build. The grid is currently have a field named column, and this column is a special type of blocks where which means basically that you can use their any nestable components if you want, or if you want to, then you can also restrict that. So for example, I can restrict it only to features right now, and you will just save the schema and it's done. And the page is very similar to it. It just in here we did define the body field body, and it's also the time blocks, and you can use there any other blocks, basically any other nestable component. But I could also like create here a new field called server engine optimization, or like footer, header, whatever I want. Basically, it's totally up to me and my imagination at the end. So right now we know how looks like this part on the Storyblok. And what exactly is delivered is a JSON from the REST API. And we can see also this JSON here in the draft JSON. So here you can see that we will deliver some story, which has a field body. And here is a component type page. And then this body is basically just the array of a component, and every of this component here is like has defined like what kind of component it is, and then also the content, as I mentioned there, headline, hello Manchester, Vue.js Manchester. I should reverse it. But I don't have this part on the story in the Nuxt.js, so I need to create that in the Nuxt.js, and this is where the Nuxt.js as a modern framework bring that most power. Is super simple and very easy to create that. So we just go to components folder, and I already prepared some components there that I don't have to type it everything. And here you can see that I have a feature view, and here I just do, it's very simple. Basically, I'm just sending data through the prop called block. Then I am rendering the headline, or sorry, in this case, the name in the H2 with little bit Tailwind CSS styling, and that's it. So nothing else. Just what means the feature for me right now. And the same thing goes for a teaser, just rendering the headline instead of the name. But still, I am sending the block. And then I have here this special thing I forgot to mention on the feature, which will connect my Nuxt.js application with Storyblok and make it a little bit better editation experience. You will see that in a second. I will explain it. Then let's go for a grid. So the grid, how it looks grid? Looks is undefined list, because usually is it little bit styling from the Tailwind, and then I'm looping through all my columns here and basically rendering the column component. And I don't know what kind of company could it be inside, as I didn't restrict it that before. So I am rendering the dynamic Vue.js component called component with the is attribute, which will decide what kind of component I am going to render. So here the is is set like block.component, which exactly means in the draft JSON that here is the component value and the value of, the variable, and the value is the teaser. So the block.component here in this case will return teaser. And I know that I'm going to render here the teaser. So this is this component, and this will be rendered. So simple. And the last thing, the page, also the same approach. I have a dynamic component. Basically, I'm looping through the body, and then I'm rendering the right content. Very simple. So what I need to do right now is to like install my components or register them in the Nuxt.js. So I have a plugin called components.js. I am right now installing globally all the components. I mean, you don't have to do it like this all the time, and it's not always the best approach, because this way I basically import everything, and this should be like a little bit clever, like thinking behind this. But it's good for the demo purpose. So my server is already restarted. And now if I go back, then I should see a change probably, but I don't see the change. And the reason is that I still didn't ask for data. I have to do an API request for that, so to get my data. And I'm going to do the API request in the index, on the index page directly. We could like pull this out from the index page, but right now we have only one page, so it's okay. So I'm going to page folder, and here's my index page where I am going to load the data from the Storyblok and then render basically my new website. So first of all, I need to remove the old HTML from the Nuxt theme because I don't need it anymore. So let's remove that. Then uncomment my part, and I will comment it later in a second. Then I don't need to have a logo of the Nuxt.js, so let's remove this. Then uncomment my part, which will be like asking for the data. And then we don't need any more the styling because we are using the Tailwind CSS. So great. So what is here? Here I'm first also using the component, dynamic component. Yeah, I could directly use the page because I don't have any other content types. But here, if there would be like different content types, there could be like outer page or whatever, then I need to use this and decide it according to the story type. Then what next? I'm creating my data as a dummy data, basically just a placeholder with, okay, I will get some story with the content. Then I'm asking for my data in the async function data function in async data. And here I'm just using the story API, which was installed with the module story block Nuxt module, and it's directly on the app. So I am asking only for the home content here, which is static. So directly for the home, because this is the slug I am going to ask for. And the slug you can see also here. Sorry, this is here is the name of the slug. So the page is called home, and also the slug is called home. I could like change it theoretically. And then I'm going to ask for the draft version. And this is, of course, only this way only for the demo, because normally you would figure out the full slug using the context and the root that, okay, so what is my path? And according to that, I'm going to ask for the path I'm on right now. And here also the version, like if I would be also deploying it on production, it could be in the .env file, and or like we could use as Nuxt.js is production variable, if I'm correct. Yeah, sorry, no, is def, and then asking for the draft or publish content. But right now I'm going to use only draft. So forget this one, I will get to that later. So this is basically how I loaded data. And if I now go and open the homepage, I should see a difference. And is there a difference? I am getting error, or is it blocked something? Localhost, let me check why the live coding never happened to me this. So what did I forget? It's compiled, it's asked the data, and it's returned.
You have an ad block. I remember in the conference you disabled the ad block to get.
Yeah, but it's like, where is that? There's like not blocker. Or am I correct? It's like something wrong. What is wrong here? Ad blocker. Where is the ad blocker? Plugins, extensions. There's no ad blocker. It was there a few seconds ago, or that is interesting. This is the okay. Give me a second. This is strange. So let's jump here. So what's the error? The clearance and render virtual DOM is not matching the server end. This is likely caused incorrect HTML markup. Okay, maybe. Give me a second. I will be right back. I will just have to ask something.
Emanuel, I think you should do like a little tap dance or something.
I'm really sorry what's going on here, because this has never happened to me, and my blocker should be not there. So is my internet connection wrong? Okay, let me guess. Okay, client now probably is going on. Localhost. Okay. What's going on? Okay, I will do something else, trying that. I'm really sorry for this. And this is probably the problem of where I am, of the live coding. So
might be unrelated, but there were two in your console. There was the rehydration problem, and the second error was the page wasn't registered, I think.
I'm going to check that one more time. Localhost. is running. You can help me. So let's unknown customer page. Did you register the component correctly? For the component, make sure to provide the name. Oh, no. It's not possible. Really? Thank you. Components. There is a page. There is a page. There is a page. Page. This is running. As is here. I know maybe what is that.
Do we have a page.vue? I thought it's. Oh yeah, I think we do have a page.
Yeah, I have that.
Components. Yeah.
Here's the page.vue, and then here's the I know what did I forget. Haha. Thank you. You are correct, but I forgot to install the plugin. So right now, that was a little bit debugging. So if I go to config, then as I created as a plugin, then I have to also like install the plugin in the Nuxt.js. So install, like register the plugin. So that's why I didn't have any meaningful error. So, and this is a step I forgot. So the page components.js where I registered all my components, I have to also register that in the config that Nuxt.js knows that here in the plugins/components are all my components. So see, I should run it like before. So, and now it should work. Yes, it's working. So if I now reload the Storyblok, then we should see exactly our content, and we see the Hello Manchester Vuejs, or let's make it like a Hello Minciu, and save it. So exactly, so where I ended. So right now you can see our content, you can see now components, and you could notice that as I hit the save, the page was reloaded, and also you can see that here are these outlines. So these are exactly the reasons why we installed the V-edit table there. So as we install the Storyblok Nuxt, we install also the V-edit table directive. So how does this exactly work? So the save event and the reload of the page is installed here, or like registered event in the mounted lifecycle, where we just listen for basically a story, basically listen for the publish and the change event. And if it's happening using the Storyblok bridge, then we basically ask Nuxt.js to reload the website. So here you can see as I hit the save or the publish, then it will be basically reloaded. That's it. That's the whole magic. But as we are right now using the Nuxt.js, which is like the modern framework, and it's really cool, then we can do even something else and even cooler. And that's also because we are using JavaScript, and it's like do a real-time editing. So what I mean is like if I hit here or something, or like if I go and copy paste this grid, I have always hit the save. So like let's do like changes, and then I have to hit the save, and I see the change. And it's like pretty working well, but like if I then check if it's working good on the mobile devices or like on the iPads or like different resolution, then it could be like, oh, okay, I'm not happy, and I have to like edit one more time and hit one more time save to see the results and if everything's working. And this basically pollute my versions. So you would see like tons of versions that I did a lot of changes, and I think like we could do it better to like preview the actual real-time content. So let's do that. Like let's listen for the input event. So here in the mounted event, I am going to listen for an input event from a Storyblok, and every time we catch the input event, we are going to just replace our current story, so story.content, so that thing that we registered here, with the story content that is coming from the event, from the input event. So let's save it, because at the end it's only text data. It's like not a lot of data. It's very easy for the preview and very useful and fast. So here, if I now click and just to be sure reload and go for hello main viewer world, isn't this cool? Or I can go here, click also to grid and open the content on the right side, and I can also like copy paste everything and just hit it here and duplicate and create such stuff. And I can see the content live as I am like editing. Like, okay, let's copy it, add it here, and this is like super because I didn't hit save, so I didn't pollute it in my versioning. And I can go like, okay, does it working good? Oh, it doesn't work. So I should probably like remove this. And okay, this is duplicated. So let's remove also this part. And then I will hit the save only if I really need to hit the save. And I have only one new version instead of 5 new versions. So this is the real-time editing. And then the part where the outline that just I jump back and it's working also this like connection that if I hit something and it's open on the right hand side, then this is thanks to here the v-editable and the draft content where we have some identifiers and they can connect, but where are you clicking and what should be shown on the right hand side. So cool. This is like working Hello World demo with a little bit struggles with on my side as we are in live coding. But I promised to create like articles and also feature them on the homepage. And how to do that is I will going to show it right now without any hesitation and waiting. So let's create an article first of all. So we need to define the schema for the article in the components. So I'm going to create a new article. And this time, the article will be the content type. So maybe in the future, we will probably have a website that will be rendering the content. So let's create an article. And I will need here a hero image. As I want to have a hero image, then I have a title. Then it's an intro text, if I'm correct. Also author and just a prose. This could be like many different fields and setups. Right now, let's keep it this way. The hero image should be an image. So I'm going for asset and going for type image. Then the title is a text, and that's okay. It's working. The intro, in my opinion, should be a longer text. So I'm going for a text array. Author, many ways to implement this. I will keep the simplest one, and that's basically go for single option. So I have only one author all the time. And I'm going to, as a source, will be here define the source. So I will be the one author, and let's add DOM as second author. So save it. And the prose with where we will write the article basically. Right now that I'm happy to do that like multiple components even, but right now I will just do it as a rich text editor. Or we could, a lot of people using the Markdown. So let's go for rich text editor with like many options. So right, this is the schema basically. I can save it, and after save, we are set to like create an article. I can go and I said to my writers, even to I didn't create any front end stuff for it. Like you can create a new article right now because I created everything you need for that. So let's go to content, create a folder for them called articles. And here I will choose that the default content I will be article logically. And save it. So, and my writers or content editors or whoever who is writing the articles can go to folder, create a new article and call it my first article. And then just like create it. Yep. The first you will see an error because we don't have any like rendering for it. So let's tell them like, hey, focus only on the content, just close the visual preview and you can create the content. So let's upload very quickly a new image there, just some content we have, call it article 1. I have some cool text from the Nuxt.js and I will be the author. And here would go to the headlines and all the whole stuff. And did I forget to hit? Why is not the image here? One more time. I did something wrong, probably. Or my internet connection, please don't fail me. Yeah, okay. And now I just save it. And I created my first article, let's say. I will create 2 more of them very quickly. So second, and I will just replace the images that you see some difference in the preview. So upload, confirm. Let's change this to 2. And let's say like Dominic will be the author. And I should drink something. And create the one more. Third. So third and number 3, JPEG. And I will be the author. Cool. So right now, basically, I have 3 articles. I can like publish them, and the webhook will be triggered. And if I have a like rendering service, then I could render them. But I said like I would like to feature them on the homepage. So let's do that. So open the visual preview and let's explain what I mean. So I don't need these duplications. So let's remove this. Interesting. It's the live preview not working. This is even. So here I would like to have my featured articles as a section. So I will need to create that. So let's jump and go to components and really quickly create also the featured article section or component featured articles. And that will be nestable because it will be nested in the story or in the page. So, okay. And I need only one field basically where I will pick by hand my articles. So it will be articles. And as a source, I'm going for a multi option because I would like to like pick multiple articles probably. And the real stores will be the stories I created just. And even I would like to restrict it only to articles folder. So this is my setup. I can save it and now it's done. I can go and use that in the content on the homepage. So let's go to homepage, add here block, and here is already the component I just created. I can add it and I can even select my 3 articles and I can save it. The problem is still, I don't see it here because I didn't create it in the Nuxt.js. So Nuxt.js could like render like, hey, you didn't create it. But I can see it also already in my draft JSON. If I open it, then here on the bottom, I see the component which contains an articles folder with the 3 UIDs of my articles that I selected. Cool. So let's fix that on the Nuxt.js. So in the Nuxt.js, I already prepared that, of course. So I have here the featured articles. And what I do here is another list of my articles, which will render the article teaser, where I will send the content of the article using the article content prop. And the article teaser does nothing else, just render the title, intro, and the outer with a little bit styling of tail and styling, and also render the image where I'm using the resized image computed data. And this reset image basically used the Storyblok image service to resize the image to 300 to 250. So very simple, nothing too much complicated. I just try to keep it simple. So this is like explanation of what the article teaser and the featured article. There is one thing I forgot to create it, and that's the title. So here you can see also some styling for a blog title of this section, which isn't created in Storyblok. So we will have to fix that. So let's like register those 2 new components. Okay, I just registered them. So I can now save them, and the Nuxt.js is rebuilding, it's rebuilt. So we should see a difference here. And yeah, we see already my articles in the preview. So, but here's this bug with this yellow background. So let's fix that because that's the missing title here. So as you can see here, I am already in featured articles, like here on the right side, and I can always like adjust the schema also from here. So I'm going to open the schema and just do a quick fix to add the title, add it on the first place, save it, and hit here at the featured articles and save it. And even you see already here that it's like featured articles. And this is like how it's crazy easy to create something so nice, very fast with something like Nuxt.js. And right now, as we have like atomic based design and how it's like component based content, I can go and duplicate this content. So I have a featured article section, and I would like to like feature here as different article. Like let's say like I will feature only the Samuel's article. So and then I will select only the Samuel's articles and save it. Or I can like change the order. As you can see here down, it's like 3, 2, 1. So let's reorder this article. So make the first one and the second. Now right is it in correct order, so I can save it because my JSON delivered the order of the UIDs, and that's bring me to one point. Here it showed the content, but how I delivered that content to you as I delivered only a UIDs in the draft JSON. So here in the draft JSON, I am sending only the UIDs, but how this really worked is that in the Storyblok, if you remember that one line, I told you that I will I will mention that later, is in index.js. I just said here in the async data that please resolve this relation, because at the end, what is exactly the featured articles is only a relation to a different story in the Storyblok. So I just said like, hey, please don't send me this only as the UID. Please resolve the content of this field article in the component featured articles and send me the content, the real content. And to have the real-time preview, I have to do the same thing also here in the input event. When I am listening, then I am also like doing on the Storyblok bridge, basically resolving this relation. And that brings me basically to the end of this presentation, because I covered everything. So what would be like the next step is basically set up the deployment button, that if you hit the publish, then the webhook to the Vercel will be triggered, which is very easy. You just have to create that webhook on the Vercel and then set it up in settings, and it will be deployed. But this exactly is covered in the article, that in the article where you can finish it by yourself. And basically, as you can see here, we created the featured articles. But if you would like to finish it like this, so header with a nice title line, little bit text, some images, also the headline, you can go to storyblok.com/tp/Nuxt.js multi-language website tutorial and do it by yourself. But I have to warn you, it's a very long tutorial with covering even the multi-language also. And then one more thing before the last slide I should mention is also that the last week we created the technology page for the Nuxt.js. So you can even go for storyblok.com/tc/Nuxt.js, and then you will find even this talk already recorded for another meetup here, with some also nice like links for how to create that, and all the nice links for a different like modules and anything you will need to like start developing with the Nuxt.js and the Storyblok. So thank you very much. This is my last slide, and if you have any questions, let me know. I am happy to answer them, or you can follow me on this Twitter, Snopko or Storyblok, and I'm always answering my DMs on the Twitter, like usually very fast. So don't hesitate and ask me anything. And thank you.
Thank you, Samuel. That was quite a ride. Do we have any questions before the second talk?
And sorry it was so long. I really missed one step. It's always hard to find error.
Just a comment, look really good. Really nice integration with Nuxt.
Thank you.
All right, it doesn't look like there are any others. I guess you can always, if you have anything, you can ask at the end of the meetup, or obviously as Samuel mentioned, you can reach him on Twitter, and I'm sure he will get back to you. But yeah, thanks again for joining us tonight and for the talk. It's never easy doing a live coding, so yeah, props to that. And yeah, I guess we can start right away the second talk if Mikey and Michael, if both of you are ready.
Yeah, I'm ready, I think. Let me share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. Everyone else can see the screen as well?
Yeah.
Yes.
All good.
Yes, so thanks for Emanuell noticing that very long title. I've also changed it slightly. I made it a little bit longer. So realizing you can never keep everyone happy, we've changed it to be keeping as many people happy as possible. So following on the theme from Samuel, we're also going to be talking about what we've done with our CMS system to reinvent our platform so that we've got a really good balance between our developer engineering community, what we're doing in our publishing team to make sure that they can keep on top of the changes, and also that Google are liking our pages, that we're getting really good rankings and SEO factors from that. So quick intro from me. I am Mikey Smith. I'm head of engineering at Money Supermarket, and I look after core and personalization, which encompasses quite a broad range of technologies and different teams. But one of them is the acquisition team, which looks after our CMS platform and marketing systems. With me, I've also got Michael Henley, who is our senior engineer and has been really instrumental on driving the success of this project today. I don't know if you want to say hello, Mike.
Yep, hello. So I've been with Money Supermarket for about 2 years now. I was one of the, let's say, gatekeepers of the old system. That was my job when I came in, is to kind of take over, understand it. So I've kind of had an idea of where it didn't need to go in its evolution, let's say. So I've pretty much been on this since the beginning of the year.
Cool. Yeah, so what I'm going to talk to you today is a run through of how we're replatforming our CMS landing pages and how we leveraged Vue.js, server-side rendering, and also a micro front-end approach, really with the ultimate aim of balancing all the needs of those different stakeholders that we've just gone through. Okay, so. Sorry, can everyone still see my screen, or is it gone?
I can see the first slide.
Got you. Okay.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm a Zoom noob as well, so
Oh.
So I am a big believer in context, right? It helps us all make better decisions. And I like to ensure that all of the teams have all of the information and the context that they need available to them. And by considering that context, these decisions are less likely to have unintended consequences, which kind of starts us nicely onto our talk. So to give you some context, let's go all the way back to 2014. I did look to try and find some interesting facts that happened in 2014, but there wasn't too much actually. So lots of people were playing Flappy Bird on the phone. Apple announced an Apple Watch, which seemed to shock the world. I don't remember too much about that. But for MSM, this was quite an innovative time. So we were working on what we called Reset. And back then I was a DevOps engineer and looking at replatforming all of our incumbent data center stuff into the cloud, into AWS, and using infrastructure as code and Phoenix server patterns and all of that goodness. But there were also other really big changes going on at Money Supermarket. We were transitioning from being a .NET house to using Java and AngularJS. Hopefully not everyone's turned off at that point, but this was 2014. So additionally, there was also this other vision, right, that we could really start building quite flexible question sets. And what we mean when we say question sets is those annoying pages that you have to get through where you answer all the questions about yourself to finally get to your insurance results page where you can actually see the prices that you're going to pay. And there was this idea that we could start making new user journeys, change existing ones, add and remove questions really easily without any development resource at all. It could all be done in an authoring environment. And we'll build these small little building blocks that the authoring team put together, and this will all be done within the content management system. This wasn't just any CMS system as well, right? This was Adobe Experience Manager, which is a class-leading enterprise platform, and really demonstrated like the investment that Money Supermarket were looking to invest into this next world-class tech phase. Okay, so project was successful, right? The team then built a new generation of question sets that are highly interactive, had class-leading usability, and probably made a bit of a step change for our users in order to fill out the questions and move on to get to those results that were all important to them. But what was happening in the background, being honest, we were unintentionally creating and building a monolith, right? So all of our content goes in here. Authors were making changes in production that we had to backfeed and merge that in with code. Our UI framework was also in there. So all of those small building blocks I mentioned, that allows the authors to make change and build up the bigger atomic, using those atomic elements. The other thing that was also in there was our business and orchestration logic that allowed us to communicate with our upstream services. So all of our session management, our authentication, we were using AEM as our proxy into that service. So it really did become that monolith where lots of functionality was in there. Add to that at this time, right, the Money Supermarket was also experiencing growth. We were bringing on lots of developers at this time. So we were always then starting to make changes on top of this. The content grew larger, which meant that operational AEM also became a little bit finicky, because as it grew, the task to keep it up and running also grew. I can think of one particular example that comes to mind, and I'm not sure if he's on the call today or not, but one of our developers was tasked with, quite new to this project, with making a really small CSS change. And if you can imagine, the blast radius of making that change across a site like Money Supermarket is huge, right? Not only do you have to get your working environment set up, which was difficult with AEM, you also had to make sure that you've not made any inadvertent changes, get it tested on lots of different browsers, etc. And I think actually for that small CSS change, we were looking around a week. So it really wasn't an ideal situation. Over time, right, people no longer started adding new stuff into AEM. Teams are finding it other ways to build new user journeys using like smaller micro apps that hung outside of AEM, and as a whole it kind of became a bit of an unloved platform. However, the core estate for AEM remained the same. Content and pages are huge. Like for Money Supermarket, we're talking thousands and thousands of pages, and our content team do an absolutely awesome job keeping on top of all of that rate of change to make sure that they're building lots of pages on a very frequent basis that are giving our customers those tips around how to save money and maximize the finances. So let's take a little bit of a look at our happyometer check around how happy our stakeholders are at this point. So we think our customers are generally happy, right? We've got quite a good user interface. They're not sure of what all of these complexities that are going on behind, because the working system is really good to them. It looks awesome and they can get to their results pretty quickly. Authors are generally happy. They've got the rich features within AEM, all of the stuff that they really need. The one thing that's probably holding them back is that operational element. So AEM was particularly a little bit slow for them given the size of everything that was in there. Google was reasonably happy at this point. We were holding quite dominant rankings for most of our core channels, such as car insurance, home insurance, energy, and we were reliant on that organic performance. The one team that really suffered as part of this was our development engineers. So it was a difficult environment to work in. It took a lot to get AEM up and running locally. If you had to make a change, you can never really be confident. We kind of made the best of what we had for a little while, but then something changed, and I'm going to fast forward us now to 2019. Google made what they call a core algorithm update, and what that means is they're changing substantially the ranking factors and how they look for content on the page. And as a business, Money Supermarket, we are quite reliant on organic search. We spend a lot already on PPC, and that cost of acquisition is quite high. So although we do have a loyal customer base, people generally will come back and just type in car insurance or compare car insurance into Google and tend to pick on the top 1, 2, or 3. So we really need to be in that top 3 flight. So when Google made this algorithm change, Money Supermarket suffered massively. Those dominant positions that we held really cascaded us down to like P5, P6, and then some of our channels down onto page 2, which was a huge financial hit for Money Supermarket. And it was at this point that we really had to think about how we were managing our SEO, and it shifted from being that side of desk optimization, let's just keep the lights on, to something that the team had to focus on. And as a result, we built a team to come up with a new platform that was going to solve some of these problems and these trading challenges. So I paid $5 for this clip art, so I'm going to milk it in this presentation a bit. So here we are again. But as we all know, right, engineers like to come up with new and innovative ideas. And we also looked at the headless approach and some of that goodness that Samuel had just gone through. And we're really keen on this because we thought it would make our lives as engineers much better. We could get the changes out quickly, we could build components really quickly and make that step change for Money Supermarket. And we actually looked at Nuxt as well, using a headless CMS. It was definitely one of our wish lists. But using this approach, as we all know within engineering, any solution has advantages and disadvantages. And any decision that we make writing code is quite often a compromise. After all, within software engineering, we're continually balancing things such as like time to market, correctness, changeability, security, usability, performance, and it's impossible to have all of those things at once. And I think in this occasion, when we were looking to rebuild something, I wouldn't say that we've been quite selfish, but we kind of forgot one of our key stakeholders. And in this case, when we do our happyometer check, it was the authors. They were the solution that we were looking at, right? They were probably going to take a real step back in their ability to make change. So all of the key things that we've missed from the system that they have now within AEM around rapid building of pages, we were going to be missing. The controlled launches where we can set up to say on the day of our new advert launch, let's launch this new content at 2 AM. Experience fragments that allow authors to reuse content really easily across the site, and sophisticated workflows to allow us to democratize the content creation so that we can outsource it to freelance writers and allow them to submit changes, and then the publishing team go through that whole approval process. So we took a step back and we really decided to embrace this enterprise CMS that we were using, but build it in a way that suited everyone. So before I go on to talk a little bit about that, I just wanted to go over one other big change that we made as part of this. Authors were creating pages using atomic components, and by that I mean like buttons, headers, and they were creating all these and trying to make the layout look nice and make it work across lots of different browsers. So you can imagine the headaches that we were causing them, or that they had rather. To change that, we decided to build component sections this time, where the authors were absolved of all of that styling, the control of the rendering, and that block was handled by a developer, but the authors could change content and configure it so that they got what they needed. And these are the foundations for what we see as a micro front end here. So you can see on this page, we've got header components, hero components, tabs components, and all of these are like those stack sections. And I think in Samuel's world, you call them blocks, right? So maybe we could start adapting that name as well. So this is really high level view of our system. I've removed all of the bumper on like CDNs that we go through just so that you can get a rough picture and try to visualize the core of our architecture. So it's coined content push, and that's because AEM stores the content and the configuration and the layout, but it pushes that upstream to our little self-contained micro components. And these micro front ends, they're self-contained Vue.js apps living in Kubernetes, and they server-side render the components according to the data that's pushed to it from AEM. So that CSS change that I mentioned earlier that was causing us that week's pain, I think on average now we can probably build new components within that week's time. So it's really enabled the team to move forward and start embracing different ways of having to work rather than suffering from the previous environment. Right now, most of our components are bunched into one component service, which we're in the process of starting to split that up so that we've got independent containers that we can deploy independently, and hopefully move them into Lambdas at some point so that we can leverage that serverless framework. So this thing that you kind of see sitting in the middle that we've called Hyperdrive, its responsibility is to route, to batch and discover these individual components so that AEM doesn't have to worry about any of that discovery. And eventually all of these micro front ends, when we do move to serverless, those kind of changes will be really easy because it's all encapsulated in that block. But all of this is really trying to keep code and those changes outside of AEM. Within AEM itself, what we do have are two main items, and it's something that calls these components to render, so it understands the interface that it needs to call and push the content downstream to get the answer it needs, and then stitch that to the page. And then the other aspect is our component registry. So it's that metadata that we use that says what an author can configure, what the dialogue should look like. And eventually we're hoping that as we get more sophisticated in our use of this and get a little bit more time once everything's bedded in, that Hyperdrive can probably provide that. So if it knows what components are available, we can ask it for a list and we can kind of register them on the fly rather than having to upfront tell AEM as we do at the moment. So let's take, oh, I've gone one step too far there. So obviously for us, SEO is still king, and we want to create a personalized experience for our customers as well. So if you look here, right, we've got our normal cycle where a browser would request that content from AEM, the request will come back. And then what happens is we'll make a small little server-side call to say, is the user authenticated? If they are, then we'll raise like a page level event that will give us a signal to all the components on that page to say, you're going to have to go off and get some personalized content if you need to. If there is no authentication, which would be Google, then that will fail quite fast. And then we've leveraged all of that caching that we've already got, and Google will get that fast time to interact. So let's assume we're logged in and our component needs to personalize itself a little bit. So it makes a call to Hyperdrive to say, please render me this component that's going to show me my quote history, for example. The quote history component will be hit, which is our Vue self-contained app. And that might have to go off to another upstream API that's going to get that data for the user. And you can see here in the response coming back that you've got that little widget that comes back and says, here's your most recent quotes. So this is a more complex view of our architecture, but I'm kind of going to skip over that. If anyone is interested, then feel free to ask me any more questions on that. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at the interface between AEM and the components. And again, for simplicity, I've ripped Hyperdrive out of this picture because it's really just responsible for the routing. So what we did here was we leveraged an approach from Airbnb, which is an open source project called Hypernova. The Hyperdrive name might make a little bit more sense around why we called it that. But you can see here that the request goes out in JSON format saying, please render me the expert review component, and it passes any data that the author's configured as part of that component. And they just end up as standard Vue props that go in, comes back from Hypernova as the rendered markup, all encased in kind of this nice little JSON response, where additionally you'll get the markup and any resources that AEM needs to stitch on top of the page. And you can see that's kind of the example that we're looking at around one of these blocks in the bottom left-hand corner. Okay, so I'll try and do a bit of a live demo. I'll just do a new share.
I'm glad you volunteered to do this, Mikey.
Well, I'm glad it's not exactly the live coding, because I think I might have fell on my face at that point. So fair play to Samuel for braving that. So this is the kind of familiar layout that you'll see on one of our Money Supermarket landing pages. We've got the header and the footer, and then the author can configure anything they want in between. So we've got our list of available components here. So let's stick with our expert review. So I can simply drag that on and we get a default rendered view. I can now go in and edit that as an author. I've obviously been here before. Type something in. It's not me because he's head of car insurance. That will allow us to change the author experience. And now if I go back in, I can also change an image. So if I search for that picture of Dave, when he comes up, he does, so I can select that, update that, and now you've got this view that you'll probably be familiar with. You'll see it roughly on our sites on most of our landing pages. I can also do the same for our hero component. I can edit that on the fly, update that. And there you go, that's roughly what the author will see, and they can start building up lots of these different components. They've got that WYSIWYG editor that, you know, they can move things around if they want, delete them, add them in. And they've got full control as well around like the URLs. So if you were to go into page properties, then authors can set what the URL would be, and they're not at the mercy of waiting for some other team to do that. I will just show you as well. Let me share something else.
Luckily, this demo kind of has a bit more context with Samuel's demo. Without that, you can kind of see the difference between some of the enterprise level stuff and maybe something that's more modern, new, and definitely easier to showcase.
Yeah, so you can see here, this is our expert view component, and these are the properties that get injected in as view props, and we can just pick them up as you would in any other view component. And if I show you this, so I'm going to make a call to Hyperdrive as well. And you can see here, these are the properties that get set. So I say, Hyperdrive, please render me expert review. I'm going to pass it, this is a title, this is a comment, this is a name, and that image that we saw, a picture of Dave Merrick on. And we get the response back with our rendered markup, which is server-side rendered, and any other assets that we need to drop on the page, in this case, a CSS. Okay. So where are we now? So Google seems to like our pages. You can see exactly on some of these graphs, roughly when we launched our new version of the page. So you can see here that our Lighthouse score that was languishing around the 40s jumped up to around 80s for our life insurance page, I think it was. And also some of the other effects that we've managed to have on our overall Lighthouse performance. So the huge drop here that you can see on the right-hand side around how much of an assets we're serving and that total footprint of pages, and also the stabilization of what's going on the page. And this is also something that we're still continually looking to resolve as well, like making sure that our cumulative layout shift around how much things move around on the page ends up being quite stable. So what does Google think as well? We seem to have a good response in this aspect. So a lot of our pages seem to have at least had a measured recovery of around 1.5 to 2 ranks. A lot of the pages have started to recover back up to P1. So we must be doing something that they quite like. One other interesting thing as well, that those components that we've seen other teams now across MoneySuperMarket are also starting to consume them as common components, and in particular those common aspects like header and a footer, where we benefit from having those as like single points of change, so that as the MSM stack diversifies a bit, we're not losing sight of all of that. So let's take one final look at our happyometer. Everyone's generally looking good. Obviously, as developers, we're the hardest to please all the time, so I couldn't give us a glowing rating. But yeah, so that's roughly where we are on our journey for MoneySuperMarket. Some of the next phases are to start expanding the type of pages that we're looking at and really starting to democratize all of that content creation that the authors are looking at into 2021. So yeah, any questions? No?
I just want to say cheers, Mikey. I've only worked there a month, and I'm seeing things that I haven't even seen before on this, so that's quite cool.
Cool, thanks, Ryan.
I think one of the things I'd probably add to that is this time around, the previous time around, we were kind of with a JavaScript framework. We had AngularJS, and we didn't want to make the same mistake this time around. But at the same time, we are predominantly a Vue.js house. A lot of our work is built using Vue.js, but the idea of the micro front ends that we have this time around and the use of the component service, we're not limited to just building Vue components. Its Hypernova is built on Node, and it's very simple to build adapters. So we talked, there was mention briefly about Svelte, the Stencil. There are a bunch of other potential frameworks, or vanilla if you wanted to. And the approach we've now got gives us the freedom to make a choice on a per component basis what technology we want to use, so we can very quickly change direction. And that's a position we've not been in before in this particular area. So for real critical page elements like the header and footer that you see for Money Supermarket, that we are potentially now capable of shipping in multiple different technologies or just in vanilla, which obviously has a impact on page performance and the kind of bundle size that you would expect. So when you have Vue and a Vue with its runtime, it's still quite heavy. Vue 3 might be better, but it does allow us to use different technologies as well. It's definitely something to look at if you're interested in kind of server-side rendering just with Node and looking at different technologies.
Thank you, Mikey. Thank you, Michael, for the talk. Really interesting stuff, even though I've been in that space as well. There are a few things that I wasn't aware of. So yeah, thank you for sharing. And I guess we are only slightly over time, which is not too bad. Just to wrap things up, I think, yeah, this will definitely be the last one for this year, as we are will be soon going into holidays, and December is kind of a dead month, and so is January. So I think we'll be looking to make a comeback in February next year. And I don't have any external speakers yet. I will be looking for some, as I usually do. But just in case there are no volunteers, I will be doing a deep dive on Vue 3. This will be slightly more technical than the usual talks I've done in the past. And it's gonna be going a bit into like Vue internals. And I think the idea is to basically build up a quick mini Vue, so to say. So we'll be building up all the render functions. We'll be building up the reactivity. So just things to show you how Vue 3 works behind the scenes, how changes are applied in the virtual DOM and all that. So yeah, there will definitely be some prerequisite there on Vue 2 and just a little bit on Vue 3, obviously, because it's still fairly new. But yeah, that's the main idea. But first, let's see if there are any volunteers coming, because they will have priority as they usually do. And with that being said, as always, thanks to MRJ for hosting us on their Zoom. Hopefully in the
No problem.
hopefully in the next year at some point we'll be getting to taste their pizzas and drinks again, but it's not guaranteed yet.
Yeah, sounds good, mate.
And that's it. Thanks to everyone who has been with us till this point. And yeah, I will be posting a recording of this on YouTube, and I'll come back with a link to that on our meetup event. And yeah, thanks again to all of our speakers, Samuel, Mikey, Michael, for taking the time to do the slides, to do the demos and prepare and all that. It's much appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Emanuel.
Thanks,
I think
guys.
as Wayne said,
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
it's not quite the same as sharing pizza.
You're welcome. Happy to do that.
Thank you. Keep in touch, and have a good evening and a good week.
Cheers, everyone.
Yes.
Bye
See
bye.
you guys.
Bye.
See ya. See ya.